No, it was. I used to getting up and moving a bit. But yeah, anyway. My name is Dawood, or David. I'm 38 years old. I became Muslim in 1998, so that's about 20 years. I'm English by origin, but my father has Irish lineage. My great-grandfather came from Ireland. The religion of my father is Catholic. My religion of my mother was Protestant. I was baptized Church of England, but my parents never really brought me up as a Christian. I think they just let me search and find my own way in religion. My grandma, who passed away, was deeply religious, but they never took that on board. But I did start to find out about my own religion before I accepted Islam. So I did have a phase of looking into Christianity and looking into my kind of indigenous beliefs, which was obviously Catholicism or Protestant Christianity. And that was the kind of the catalyst for actually moving on to Islam. When I was about 18, I went to university, and I think when you go to university, you become somebody else. I think it's that transition between a boyhood and a manhood. And I began to think, I began to kind of look into myself, really, my own self and what my life was all about. I started to ask questions, and I used to play rugby as well, and we went on a tour to Belgium with my rugby team, and I saw a lot of wrong things there, a lot of things that weren't really something that were my values, and because of the drinking culture in rugby and the culture of kind of going out and experiencing the life, really I saw that for the first time, and I really wanted to think, well, what is this just a true meaning of life? So I started to go home and look into Christianity, my own religion. I bought a Bible, I bought a cross, and I started to watch those old Charlton Heston films, you know, like The Greatest Story Ever Told, the Moses one and the King of Kings. And I thought they were quite warm-hearted, and I started to watch them. And then a brother, which was a Muslim brother who was probably the only Muslim in my area. I come from a very Jewish area. He was probably the only Muslim in the area. He gave me a copy of a comparative book of Christianity and Islam. And then he said, go away and read and see what you think. And that's how it all began. I knew him from when I was about 5 or 6. He just lived around the corner. But he wasn't openly religious. I think he was finding his own self. He was probably a returner to the faith. And I think that enthusiasm that he was going through, he was starting to talk to me about it, unbeknowing that maybe I was also looking for something and searching and maybe soul journeying. I think that's the right word. I read it in one night and I wanted more. These doctrines that I previously started to look at and kind of learn, were really getting put down, and I started to kind of develop arguments in my head saying this 3 in 1, or Jesus dying on the cross, or Jesus being God, and then Jesus then had to go to the toilet and he's God. I kind of started to logically dissect the religion in my head. I mean, I was a very kind of non-emotional person when I was a kid. I was a bit of a recluse. I think that naturally made me look at the religion that, you know, I didn't have a dream. I didn't have all these experiences. I didn't near death. I was brought up very, very well. I had 2 fantastic parents. I was brought up in more like a middle to upper class background. I was educated, and I had no real desire to kind of find out about religion. It's just something that it kind of hits you in the face and you try and brush it off, but then it comes back again and you try and brush it off and go, no, this is not happening. But it's something that I think you cannot control, this feeling or this urge to know what life is truly all about. The particular brother who lived near me was listening to a speaker that was really kind of close to him. I think he was a convert to Islam from America. And I think it kind of met well with him, and he was a very fantastic orator, and he was a very enthusiastic speaker. And I think it spoke to him, and he started to pass the tapes on to me, and I started to listen to them at home, which caused a lot of problems at home because my mother started to find these tapes in my cupboard and said, what are you doing, David? You know, we have found these books. You become some sort of extremist. Anyway, I hid the tapes and I continued to listen to them privately. And then this particular speaker, probably about a couple of months, decided to come to the UK, and I was invited there. I went to see him. And I expressed to my friend, I just want to believe, because this speaker is just saying everything. And I think because he was a convert as well, I felt as though I wasn't alone. I felt, well, if he could do it, I can do it. And I think that was the clinical, you know, I didn't want to be that person in the village the only English guy in the village who's a Muslim, and you know, feeling that I wanted to be accepted, and because he was that, and he'd done it, and he was a speaker, and he'd been Muslim 30 years, I thought, yes, I want to do it with him, and I want his advice, and I want him to be my mentor, even though maybe he's from America and couldn't be, but at least I had some solitude in that. So I went to the event, and I met this speaker, and I mentioned to my friend who lived near me that I wanted to accept Islam on that day. And I went up to the stage in front of about 1,000 people and did my Shahad. And I had about 500 to 1,000 brothers embrace me, which is massive. And it showed the warmth and the kind of the brotherhood and sisterhood of Islam that I've so probably missed actually as a child. You know, my concern was that I would be the only English, maybe fair-skinned, white, whatever you want to call me, British person in the community, and that I wouldn't be accepted by the non-Muslims or those of other faiths and the Muslims, because maybe people wouldn't know how to treat me. Maybe I was afraid that my parents would accuse me of being a radical terrorist, and my friends would stop being my friends. My family would stop being my family. But I wanted to reassure people that I'm just the same old David, and I'm not becoming somebody else. I mean, my mum used to say to me that you're becoming an Arab, or you're becoming a Pakistani. I'm like, no, Mum, I'm English. I've just changed my religion. You know, I can still eat the roast beef and Yorkshire puddings on a Sunday, and the fish and chips and the English food and the beef burgers. They've got to be halal. I can't eat pork and I can't drink, but everything's permissible. But after that, you know, and I think people sometimes come to the conclusion that everything's forbidden and you can't do anything as a Muslim. There's no entertainment. You've got to stay in your house, be a hermit. Nothing like that. I still participate in the same things that I did when I was a non-Muslim. I played rugby. I still play rugby. I played football. I went out with my friends. I just didn't partake in the things like the drinking and the gambling and the going out maybe to discos. But I found other outlets, like just going out for a meal with my friends, you know, going to the mosque, having social gatherings, meeting other Muslims, and also trying to maintain the contact with my non-Muslim friends. And really, most importantly, my parents. Unfortunately, they didn't take it very well. Also, I had a sister. My sister didn't take it very well. But I decided to build bridges. I completely understood that why wouldn't they be annoyed? You know, I've brought an alien religion into their house, you know, that they don't know anything about, that they've probably read on the news. And as I said before that point, there was the uprising in Palestine where the Muslims were on the news. So they probably thought, am I getting into that? Am I going to start wearing a different dress? Start wearing a turban or a hat or growing a beard? You know, I think that's what they assumed that I would become. But I was just the same old David. All I did was I believed in one God and Muhammad was the final prophet. And I believed in the religion of clemency, forbearance, patience, do good to the neighbor, forgive people 100 times more. And I said to them, is anything wrong with that? Unfortunately, some of my friends didn't remain my friends. I think maybe there was a sore subject between them and Muslims. Even though I continued to try to build the bridges, it didn't work. And I moved on after a while. I moved out of my parents' house and got a lodgings near the university because I was studying at that time, which was more near the mosque, more near the community. I lived in a very non-Muslim community. So I wanted to feel part of something. And the mosque that I lived near was fantastic and they welcomed me. It was a very multicultural mosque. There was Arabs, Americans, Sudanese, every shape, every size, every colour and creed going in there. It was amazing. And I felt like I was part of a community and not the only English guy in the village. And I found that eventually. I found my comfortable space, my comfortable, safe environment where I could walk into an Islamic centre and without prejudice, without maybe being questioned and stared at and just left alone, just to have some spiritual solitude in my life. My goals are just to be the best person I can be. You know, I want to be a real person. It's not about having this bravado of fake piety. I want to be a real person to people. I want to be there for people who are not Muslim. I really have a lot of love for people of other faiths, you know, and as well as Muslims. But I really have care and concern for the people that I'm from. I'm from these people. and I have a lot of love and care for them. And this is the sort of thing I want to do with new Muslims at the New Muslim Hub here in Dewsbury. I want to share my experience, and I hope maybe the challenges and also the problems maybe I've experienced, I can maybe prevent them or help to prevent them at those who want to accept Islam, or those maybe who are a bit afraid and were going through the same feelings that I was afraid of, because I believed, and that was not an issue. I believed, but the point of making that step was to overcome my parents and worrying about everything else, becoming somebody I'm not, maybe being bombarded with the religion and taking it on too quickly. But I want to help others who really have those concerns. I want to create a safe space. If you do decide to become Muslim, and if you do, fantastic, because you never look back and you embrace a religion of beauty and care and brother and sisterhood. You don't have to tell people you're a Muslim. You don't have to wave the flag and wear the t-shirt with I am a Muslim and I've converted. You will naturally feel happy. You will naturally want to tell your friends and your family. But it's a personal decision. I don't think anybody can kind of advise you, because you know how people will react. But I think when I speak to other people, new Muslims, and also myself, I probably wouldn't have told my parents I was Muslim, because I was living at home. I was at university and I had to leave the family home because I couldn't get on with my parents after that. So I think it's a personal decision. And I think if that's concerning people, and it was concerning me, that what would my parents think? You've become Muslim, but you don't have to tell people. You tell them at the right time when you're ready.
شكرا يا ربي شكرا هديت قلبي شكرا نورت دربي شكرا شكرا يا رب